Hey guys, it is MissSimReno. If you are returning to the channel, welcome back. And if you're brand new, I am very excited that you decided to join me here today for another speed build. And we're building in Willow Creek. I'll say again, because I believe at this point, I will have posted my NOLA starter home, which is also a tier 3 tiny home, which I thought was really, really fun. I have always loved Willow Creek and I love the New Orleans, Louisiana vibes. I suppose I'll say vibes, but I believe that the world was quite literally designed off of that area of the United States. So I love this world. I do. It's one of the worlds, of course, as you know, likely know, that shipped with base game. And when you first load up like a fresh save, there are a lot of shotgun style homes in this particular neighborhood. I forget the name of the neighborhood. Honestly, it doesn't really matter, but it's more of like the starter home neighborhood. And after I made my starter that I posted, let's say a week ago. I don't exactly know what order I'm posting videos because I'm so far ahead of my own schedule. Anyway, I loved that starter home so much. I wanted to go very eclectic and colorful and vibrant because a lot of neighborhoods, at least from what I've seen on Pinterest and Google Images, as well as like Google Maps, there's so much vibrancy to the city of New Orleans. I've never been myself, so I can't speak from experience, but I love the different architectural styles that you'll find there. I don't know exactly what this is considered, but I know that there's a lot of like Greek revival architecture in certain parts of New Orleans, and I love it. I love it so much. And I love these shotgun style homes because even though they're very simple, they have so much character to them. And that's what I was trying to achieve here, similar to when I made my little starter home. Also, ignore the UI issues with the tool mod. This was filmed in the midst of the latest patch that we got, I'll say recently, because again, I don't know exactly when this is going up, but we got a patch around the 25th anniversary celebration summit thing, and some of my mods were a little bit outdated, even though they still worked perfectly fine. So just ignore the UI, it looks a little bit wonky. But as you can see, we're working on the landscaping, which I missed so very much in Willow Creek. I haven't built here in this particular style with like matching landscaping to the world in a really long time, it feels like. And I was having a blast. Like I was loving this so much. I was having such a good time with this process. And I'll even say some of the homes that resemble this by default, like the EA homes that ship with the world, if you would asked me maybe a couple years ago if I liked that style of home, I'd say absolutely not, because I'm sorry, I don't think EA did a very good job with them. I didn't like them at all. I wasn't a huge fan of the EA builds that shipped with this particular world whatsoever, but doing it myself and really finding shapes and different colors and everything that I think work really nicely together, it made me absolutely love it. And on that note, if you didn't already know this was part of that recent update. I might be like weeks late, I don't know, but I think it's really cool that they did some base game home updates. Like they updated the Pancakes house, the Spencer Kim Lewis family's home, the Goth house, and everything. So if you start up a new save, those new homes will be there by default, which I think is actually really cool. You know, they were doing some towny updates over the past couple of years. Like we got an update to the Goth family, the Calientes and stuff like that. And updating the homes, I think that was a really good idea because those homes were questionable. They were not my favorite whatsoever. I don't think they were that great. They weren't really representative of the families either. I think the BFF household also got an update. And with those updates, it just feels so much more alive and so much more personable to the Sims that actually live there. So jumping into a fresh save, like let's say you're brand new to The Sims 4 and you haven't gotten on the gallery, you haven't even gotten into create a sim yet, like you haven't really done anything and you just want to jump in and play with a default family, this is actually going to feel so much more alive, so much more, like I said, personalized and things like that. And for me, that makes for a much more enjoyable playing experience, especially as a brand new player. So if you didn't already know that, now you know, though I'm sure this is extremely old news at this point. But as you can see, we are doing more of the landscaping here. I did make in these little tiny fenced spaces that end up being for the individual units. Off camera, I did have to kind of assign the different unit spots and stuff like that. So there are 2 units. I forgot to mention, this is a residential rental. Hello. If you have for rent, you can actually have this as a residential rental lot, which I thought was kind of a neat idea, and we can finally do something like that, right? If I had done a double shotgun intended for like a multi-family type thing previously, you could do the roommate feature, but it would be a bit tedious. So actually having this as a residential rental lot seemed like such a good idea to me, and I was really excited about it. I was really, really stoked. Now the floor plans are identical because for a build like this, it just made sense. But I did try to lay out the furniture at least a little bit different in like the living room, just to differentiate the units a little tiny bit. But each one has like an old fireplace. The wooden floors are really worn. There's kind of older wallpaper and stuff like that. I was thinking that these rental homes would be on the, I don't really like using the word, but like on the cheaper side. You know, they're not as upkept. They're not as new. They're a little bit more historic when it comes to the buildings in Willow Creek. Like I think maybe there are some newer buildings, maybe in like the downtown area, but these are a little bit older. They're not as upkept and they're a little bit more affordable. That's the word I wanted to use. They're more affordable for you to rent if your sim is just starting out and isn't able to buy their own home. And I thought that was a really nice idea. So this first unit that we're working on, also, I should say each one is so mismatched, and like the joy that it brought me is absolutely unmatched. It is unmatched. I usually don't like mismatching things at all, but I wanted these to be so eclectic and so fun and bright and vibrant, just like the city itself. So everything's mismatched, everything's bright. There's so many different colors. And this particular unit is for, I believe, a sim who does seances and table reads and stuff for a living. And they do it out of the, what could be a second bedroom. So I think I listed on the gallery that each unit has 2 bedrooms, but I did note that one of them had a seance table and an archway. So you could go ahead and get rid of the archway and the seance table and make it into a second bedroom if that fit whatever family dynamic that you had in mind if you wanted to use this build. Super easy to do. But the other one is actually a bedroom as well in the other unit. So this one is for a sim who does seances for a living. So they're really into kind of the paranormal and stuff like that. And I tried to reflect that in a lot of the decorations and things that I ended up using. And it was so much fun to revisit the paranormal stuff pack. I always say it is it is quite literally, in my opinion, the absolute best stuff pack that we have ever gotten. And it's so my vibe. Like it's absolutely, it piques my interest. Like I love it so much, but it was really fun to revisit that because I don't use a lot of those items frequently. I might use like some of the plants and stuff, but as for some of the other decorations and like the hanging lights that I used, which are for medium wall heights, which I almost always don't use. I never use medium wall height. If I can avoid it, I won't use it. So it was really fun to kind of revisit that. And you know what really came in handy for both of these units? The posters of the tarot cards from Life and Death. Like so good. And there's so many different swatches. So I was able to use a bunch of different ones all over this unit and the other unit without it being repetitive, which was surprising. Like I was really happy about that. Now the living room is pretty much done. And then this is going to be the kitchen, which is very, very small. The kitchens are small in these units. I think there's only one countertop for your Sims to prep food on and things like that. But you've got a stove and a sink and a fridge, of course, the things that you need. No dishwashers though. So since these are not as updated and not as upkept, you don't get a dishwasher in like modern appliances. The stove is also nestled right up against the side door to kind of their private little patio spaces. I just thought that that was reflective of it being kind of like an older, more affordable place. It wasn't as modern. Some things are not inconvenient spaces. And I also used this door from For Rent for all of the interior rooms and stuff like that, and it's very worn, which I thought was great too. And the colors like didn't matter. Do you know what I mean? They just didn't matter. I loved mismatching things here. Oh, and I think this sim has a dog because I, like my friend Rachel Ped said recently in one of her builds, I always forget to actually give my Sims pets. I might think of it more if I'm in Create a Sim, I'll think about it, but when I'm building, I always forget to add items for pets. I think I did do it recently. I think I did it in a single story home that I ended up doing, and I added objects for a cat. But yeah, I put down the little mat and then the dog dish, and I was like, okay, if you make Sims for this house, make sure that you remember to give them their dog, because that's what I was thinking. And then I also used this wallpaper. So I did change things up a little bit for this room and the seance room. I used this wallpaper from the Crystal Creations kit. been dying to use it. I might have only used it once or twice since I said Crystal Creations kit. It's a stuff pack. I always forget. From the Crystal Creation stuff pack. And I loved using these curtains from high school years throughout this whole unit as well. And I just wanted this to be colorful and mystical and just really fun. And I tried to remember to use some pieces of furniture that were a little bit more worn or DIY. Like the desk I use is from Werewolves, and it's literally just like a door on a filing cabinet and a crate. But I thought it worked perfectly for this build. And I also used the mirror from the Basement Treasures kit. I love that mirror so much. I wish there was a wall version as well. I have a CC small version of it for the wall, but I digress. I love that mirror. And I loved this room so much. I wanted it to be a little bit darker and moodier as well, because I thought that would be a little bit more calming for a bedroom. And I just really liked it. I don't know. If I sound really stumbly over my words in this one, it's because I'm genuinely so excited to share it. Like, I was in the zone when I was working on these two units, and it all was sparked from that little NOLA starter that I created, which was sparked by just happening upon an image on Pinterest of this cute little pink shotgun style home. It was just the front of it, and I was like, you know what? I want to make that. I don't use pink, and I'm going to go ahead and do that and challenge myself. And I did, and I loved the starter, and then I was like, I want more shotgun style homes right now. Right now. I'm going to do it right now. I'm just in that NOLA mindset. Let's go. And this is what I ended up creating. And I was on a roll. I was so excited to see how all of it was coming together and how much personality, in my opinion, each unit really had. But now we're working on the little seance room, which actually was probably the greatest challenge for me. I did add these curtains from the Paranormal Stuff pack as kind of like a little beaded entrance. I thought that was really neat. And there wasn't a lot of space in here. I was able to fit the seance table, of course, but this room doesn't have any windows, which for me was perfect for something like this. But I didn't really know what to put on the wall for decorations, and I couldn't really fit anything else in there as decoration. Like, I think I was able to get a plant in the corner, and it might block, honestly, one of the seats. And I added, of course, more of the tarot card framed poster things and something else for Crystal Creations, because I was like, I don't know what other artwork to put on these walls. I really don't. And I don't like saying this. Well, okay, here's one thing. That tarot card painting from Life and Death, the number of swatches and the different paintings for that same frame, I love that. And I wish that we had more pieces of artwork that had that much variety, because we have a lot of art in The Sims, but I do not use a lot of it whatsoever. And it really depends on the style of build that you're going for as well, right? So for this one, it's a little bit of a challenge. I feel like we don't have a lot that works with it. But anyway, we're working on the second unit now. It's a little bit, I'll say brighter, maybe even more colorful than the other one too, because this one is for a couple who's really into music. Maybe they're both like aspiring musicians, struggling musicians, if you will. I think they're struggling musicians. They really love music. That's why they're in Willow Creek. Like, the music scene downtown is so their vibe. They also have an infant though. They're parents. So their nightlife has now completely changed perhaps, but they just love music. They love entertaining. They're really, really vibrant and fun Sims, in my opinion. And I think that their infant is going to be like the coolest kid on the face of the planet. I was struggling a little bit with colors when I first started decorating this. Again, I made the layout slightly different too, where I've got a love seat over by the windows, and then we just have two armchairs in front of the fireplace. It's not vastly different because, again, these units are mirror images of one another. But I thought it was just a little bit different, just slightly. And then I placed down this amp, like the pair of amps there. It's technically a stereo from the Moschino stuff pack, I think, which just seems so random to me. But I added a guitar from Horse Ranch to kind of show that they just practice out in the open. Maybe when they have company over, they all kind of perform for one another. They're very social, community-focused, musical people. And I just really want to make them and create a sim. I can't really envision them, but I have some ideas. Like, I get flashes of ideas sometimes when I think about these two Sims in particular. And it just really excites me. Like I loved decorating their unit because of that. And that's when I remembered how much artwork we did have though that pertained to like jazz and music from Base Game. Because again, Willow Creek shipped with Base Game, makes sense. So I used a lot of those pieces of artwork throughout their unit to really highlight like music is their interest. That is what they do. And there's a lot more pink in this unit than I anticipated. I've said this before, I'm not a huge fan of pink, but the pinks and the purples and like the teals and the peachy colors and everything, man, it just came together. I was just thrilled. I really was. And I used these overhead lights from the Desert Luxe kit, which I've only used maybe once or twice ever in builds. I was so happy to just be able to play around with some of the objects that I never put in builds because they are so stylized and so themed that they just don't work with a lot of the builds that I end up creating. Which, you know what? This was great because this got me out of, I was making like cottages, I was doing apartments and stuff like that, but this was just so different and it called for me to use things that I never touch. And I enjoyed myself so freaking much. And now they have a bigger dining table in this unit and they've got like all these mismatched chairs, which I thought was a really neat idea. And you can access all of them. It didn't block anything when I was playtesting this. If it does for you, I am so sorry, but for me, it did not block anything. I also got to use this peacock statue, like from the what's it called? The Maximalist kit, whatever that one was. You know what I'm talking about. That lamp in the living room was from that same kit. I thought that was wild. I never get to use those objects, so that was super fun for me. And I also put a lot of like neon throughout their unit because again, I think the nightlife is really where they thrive. Now that they have an infant, maybe things are kind of flipping a little bit, but they thrive in that nightlife. And down on like, what is it, Bourbon Street? You see how much research I've done? Like, good job, April. Down on like Bourbon Street where like all of the live music is playing, like that is where they come alive. And I wanted that to be reflected in how their unit was decorated as well. And then I quickly did the bathroom. The bathrooms are like really, really bright in both of these units, but they're nothing special, to be frank. There's like an older shower tub combo. You've got your toilet and your sink, you know, everything that you need. And especially since they have an infant, the tub was very important. And now in their bedroom, you may have noticed I grabbed the like bag of money and the leaning bat as well. I don't know. It was just for storytelling purposes. Maybe they experienced a break-in at some point in like their old unit. Maybe they rented a place across town or something and they didn't have a good experience. So they're a little bit nervous being in another rental. And they have a bat just in case there's an intruder. Not a nice thought, but you know, it'll work. And the sack of money, maybe that's just how they've collected like and stowed away all their tips from performing. That was my idea. When I was a hostess and a waitress at a restaurant, I had like a jar of money just like stowed in my bedroom. Like just a jar of tips stowed in my bedroom. And that's what that made me think of as well. But their bedroom is very, very light and vibrant. And I also use this vanity table, which I don't believe is functional. It might be a functional mirror, but not like a true vanity. And I added that chair there to make it look like they can pull it in front of the vanity when they want to use it. That was my thought process. And I just added a candle and like a little plant for decoration. And then we work on the infant's room, which I thought was really cute. It was a bit of a challenge because a lot of the things that we have for infants are very like contemporary or super traditional. And there aren't things with a lot of color, like specifically the cribs and stuff. So I did use this one. It's a bit more contemporary from Base Game, but it brought color into this room and then allowed me to play with some other colors as well. And again, there's no window in this second room, so I was looking at all this wall space like, how am I going to cover this? What am I going to do? How am I going to cover all this wall space and make it look like it's not scarcely decorated? Because that's what I didn't want. The stripes are nice. They add a little bit, the striped wallpaper, but it wasn't really enough. So finding decorations that I think still fit the vibe, but that you would also find in a nursery that didn't feel out of place was a challenge. Though I did add, I think, a piece of musical artwork because, you know what? They want their kid to love music as much as they do. So why not? Why not add that in there, you know? I also added this bookcase from Discovery University just because it's probably something they thrifted, right? It's something that worked. Like maybe they got a new crib and changing table, but everything else was pretty much thrifted for their little one because they are strapped for cash. And then I just add the little like infant toddler bookcase as well. We've got the little tummy time mat. And then we have a couple more decorations above the changing table, all of the different night lights and stuff like that. And that's pretty much it for the nursery. And then I start decorating their individual spaces as well, just like their little porches and their little, could you call it like a fenced in garden? They each have a very tiny one. So on this side, there's a bench, and then they've got like a little plant on an end table, I think, as well as a stereo on the ground, which is under a roof. So it's not going to break in the inclement weather. So maybe they sit out here and listen to music as well, even though it's not really the musical household. But then the musical household here has just like a chair out here. They have a chess table in their little garden space. And they've got these string lights that I found from Life and Death, because I didn't even know we had those. And I thought that was nice. I also added the little marble circle. I haven't tested that. Can adults play with marbles like kids can? I hope they can, because that's what I added there. And if not, maybe their infant will play with marbles when they're a child. I also added a bike and some gardening pots to the other little space as well, just to add some other outdoor activities. And then in the back, we actually add a couple of picnic tables. There's a grill and a swing set. So I couldn't mark it as a quote unquote shared space, but it's out in the open. It's not it's not marked as one unit or the other because it's not a room. You can't do that if it's not a room, like a closed-in space. So it is shared, and there's something for when that infant gets older. There's some places for all of them to go outside and cook some food and just enjoy being outside. But that's all I added for activities. You can, of course, add anything that you would like. If you don't like those activities, you can change them out. But that is what I went for. I am just finishing up some landscaping as well, and then we are pretty much done with this build. I really, really hope that you all enjoyed this one. I genuinely cannot wait to hear your thoughts, and I will catch you next time I post a video, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye!